We had some amazing guests on this month, starting off with Nikhita Lesler.
My first job outside of drama school was my Netflix series.
So how does that work? How did you get onto that?
So I worked at a theatre school for 10 years, and I just started speaking to this woman, and she turned out to be a Netflix producer.
She's been on a West End tour. It was great having her on. It was a really good insight into the acting industry and its current state. So what was your key takeaway from that?
The dialogue you have with yourself is so important. If you're not your best friend, it must be very, very tough.
Next podcast was with your dad, Ziauddin.
That was a very good conversation, but it was a very useful conversation.
Afghan women's rights, girls' education is not the priority of the big powers, the neighboring countries, and the Afghan Taliban regime themselves. The only people who are standing up for rights are women themselves.
It's been more than 900 days and they're not allowed to get their education. It's absolutely tragic that there's this group of people that are misusing the name of Islam, abusing their sisters, their daughters, their wives.
There's a lot of people suffering. The whole country is suffering because of the actions of the people who are in charge. So the last podcast we did this month was with James.
Wow, guy, those stories were insane, man.
The animal in the water that I used to have nightmares about was crocodiles. They're so sneaky and so sly. The first time that I was ever in contact with a lion was when I was 6 months old. And recently I got to work with conservation and ecology people.
To me, that was such an interesting podcast.
He's experienced the mystery of life on a different level.
He's been face to face with sharks, lions, incredible stories in that podcast. But yeah, that was it for the month.
Yeah.
See you soon for next month of podcasting.
Welcome to the Last Neanderthals podcast. Today we got a reflection episode for you about what we have learned from podcasting some incredible guests and why you should listen to them too. How are you doing, Wally?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we are not a statistic, bro. They say that 90% of the podcasts don't make it past the 20th episode.
We're in the top 10.
We're in the top 10.
Made it.
Let's go.
Yes.
Who would have thought?
You know what we're coming for next? Top 1% of podcasts.
Inshallah, man.
Inshallah.
I'm
and
excited.
yeah, like anything in life, consistency is key. So as long as we keep at it, should be good.
Yeah. But it's amazing, we can then revisit these conversations. Some of the conversations we are having throughout the process, it's life-changing, and our kids are going to see this stuff, man. You're going to have little mini Wallies.
No, but that's the scary part, bro. What if you make yourself an idiot and your kids are going to see it?
But they're going to learn how to not be an idiot. They were like, oh, father was an idiot. Need to be better than father. Isn't that what you want for your kid?
Yeah, but maybe there's a better way to teach them than for them to see you being an idiot on the internet.
To be fair, on Last Neanderthals, we are fine.
Yeah, on the other podcast.
It's a Neanderthals podcast where we could, be cancelled or become famous for being idiots.
Exactly.
Touch wood.
No, it is interesting. It's something that I think about a bit. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Everything you think and say just being there, readily available. It's got its positives, your family can look at it, your kids in the future can look at it. But that's also negative. Your family can see it, your kids can see it. So if you're being an idiot, if you're not carrying yourself well, they're going to look at it and be like, yo, is that my dad?
Yeah.
What's he doing? Why is he speaking like that? What did he really think that? Oh, bro.
Oh, man.
That would be the maddest part. Imagine you say something really dumb, you don't think it's dumb. Then in 10 years, your kids are looking at it yo, it's not really my dad.
I said planes were created by Warner Brothers instead of Wright Brothers. That's out there, bro. It's out there. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So someone's going to clip that. But you know what? I got there, see? I've got there before you. I already know about this. So you gotta be ahead. Eminem, in that rap battle. When he, when he disses himself. Yeah. So we have to diss ourselves.
Yeah.
So, from the get-go, set the expectations low. And then it's only, you can go higher from there.
No, but it is something to think about. Even these political figures and stuff, just being in the public eye, bro. It's tough. It's scary.
Oh, especially some of them, the kind of stuff they've done in the parliament, like what Honey told us.
Yeah,
About
bro.
people
That's,
watching-
yeah, those kind of people have no shame, though. I don't think.
Watching X content in the
Yeah.
parliament, like come
Explicit content, bro. That's crazy. I don't know what he was doing.
on. Yeah.
The tractor guy. If anyone wants to know what we're talking about, you can Google the tractor guy in Parliament.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come up if you.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, we had some amazing guests on this month. Starting off with Nikhita Lesler.
Yeah.
She's been on a West End tour. She's been in a Netflix show as one of the leading characters, Lady Worcester.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce
Yeah.
it.
She calls it. She calls her Lady W.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lady W. Lady, bro, it's so hard. It's our second language. I always pronounce things wrong, and then people are like, "What? You think that's pronounced that way?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, it's my second language. Would you
Yeah.
try and pronounce?"
Still using
Hwaza-
that as an excuse.
Try
You were
and
8, man, when you moved here.
no,
Let's
no,
leave it
no.
with
Try to pronounce Kuzkale Hwazakhela.
that. Yeah, then
Then we'll talk.
for real.
But yeah, it was great having her on. It was a really good insight into the acting industry in its current state because she's an active actor trying to climb up the ranks. So what was your key takeaway from that?
My key takeaway from her was the dialogue you have with yourself is so important, especially in her industry, which is so competitive. It can be very cutthroat, and you can feel very like insecure through whether it's rejections, whether it's like the Machiavellian nature of it. And if you're not your best friend, it must be very, very tough. And Nikita, she has affirmations, positive affirmations, and the dialogue she has with herself. Is that what you would have for your best friend? And I think we usually are very mean to ourselves, and especially in if you want to be successful and you want to become someone that does something special in life, you can't look down upon yourself. And that was my key takeaway, how she treated herself with kindness. What was your key takeaway, brother?
I think for me it was the work ethic that goes into being an actor, because she works incredibly hard on top of all the other things she does. It was like 8 shows in 5 days throughout when she was on the West End tour of Noises Off. That is an incredible amount of work, because as well as this, she was traveling all over the country. She was still going to the gym, she said, exercising. So just the dedication was amazing. One thing that would be interesting to know is, do you think it's all actors that work that hard, or is it like people like Nikita who work that hard and eventually will rise to the top?
Oh, that's a very...
what percentage of actors do you think are actually because she's not been an actor for that long now, and she's already done the Netflix show. She's done that West End tour of Noises Off. She's been on BBC Casualty. Bro, that's a lot of work. She must have put in so much time into that. So I'm just wondering, are all actors built like that, or are a lot of actors built like that, or is she in the top 1%, top 5%?
She's probably going to be... I assume that she probably is one of the hardest working, because theatre actors are built different, man.
But is it all of them that are built
I think
different?
all of them are built different.
Really?
Because when you go and watch... have you ever been theatre?
No.
Oh, you need to, bro.
We
It's
used to
incredible.
we used to watch pantomime when we were in school. We used to go as a school trip. That was quite impressive as well.
But imagine playing out a movie
Yeah.
and doing it flawlessly, improvising, not freezing in front of people, doing that many shows every other day and not losing enthusiasm and that energy. I mean, you have to be an extremely hardworking individual to pull that off. But with actors, you hear about certain actors, their work ethics is absolutely horrible. They're entitled, their ego is out of control. Robert Greene talks about this a lot, that a lot of actors are just so entitled because they're famous. It's everything needs to be geared around them. They're rude to their employees. They're rude to their co-stars. And I think I think she's built different, and I think people should definitely check out that podcast. Number one, if you need some source of inspiration of how hard, what it requires to get on these incredible shows and on Netflix and, you know, to make it in the industry. And number two, just learning more about the kind of character you need to have that will, I'm kind of saying the same thing, that will make you into a good actor, right? It's not just about like hacking the industry. It's like what you need a good character in order to get far in this industry. You can't just like fraud your way into it.
Yeah.
And if you do, then your success can be short-lived or you're going to get cancelled.
Yeah, I think she's, I don't know. You know, when you meet some people and you think, oh, they've got a really good chance at being successful at what they want to do. I think Nikita's one of those people. She's got a lot of potential and she's got the hard work to back it up as well. So I think she'll do amazing things in her life. So get the stock early.
Yeah.
Join her on the journey and watch the podcast as well, because it was an interesting conversation.
100%. Be her day one fan, because, you know, it's going to be too late someday.
Yeah, you know that flex people do on socials? Yeah, bro, I listened to that guy's first song like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
That could be you.
Exactly.
Next podcast was with the GOAT of the Last Neanderthals podcast. That's because he's been on twice. It was with your dad, Ziauddin Yousafzai. How was that?
That was a very good conversation, but it was a very useful conversation. And it was a tough conversation because we spoke about very dark matter, that is Afghan women. It's been more than 900 days and they're not allowed to get their education. You know, it's absolutely tragic that there's this group of people that are misusing the name of Islam, that are like abusing their sisters, their daughters, their wives, you know, for what good? It's like when you look at it rationally, it's the most irrational things that's happening. Like my dad, to quote my father, he said it's not unnatural, it's un-Islamic, it's un-Afghanic, and no one is holding them accountable. And it's, you know, I like to keep hopeful, but the situation is hopeless. But it's not always going to be like this, inshallah. But you know, you can't help it but not feel hopeless, because who's really speaking about it? Who's really bringing it that attention? You know, when the Ukraine situation happened, Afghan story was, people forgot about it in a day.
Yeah.
You know, when the US left Afghanistan, it was just like it never happened.
Yeah. I think it is a really difficult period right now. I just don't understand why they don't want women and girls to go to school. Like, what? It doesn't make sense. I think another interesting thing that we spoke about is how we can push for getting women and girls into school and into university. And I think the sanctions are the way to go, but not like imposing more sanctions on them. I don't think they'll care about that. I think it's giving them some sort of incentive to allow girls to go to school, and that would be like proposing trade deals with them if they let girls to go to school, or like lifting sanctions. I think they're completely content with where they're at. They let it go like completely to waste just to be like stubborn. But if you like show them the dollar signs and show them like, oh, you can get a bit more power, you can get a bit more wealth, all you have to do is just let girls go to school. I think that could be a possibility, instead of just like economically crippling them through sanctions. That's like killing more people, causing more famine. Because your dad mentioned the US sends them aid, 40 million in aid every week, but that's not the same as like having a actual free market flourishing economy where they can trade with other countries, because they are doing like back deal trades and stuff, but they've got so many sanctions that they can't function properly. Even though like we may not agree with the regime, I just don't see how we should let the entire people of the whole country suffer because of that. Like,
yeah, it's like through basically isolating them, the regime, completely, and putting sanctions on them, and then it's just more starvation within the population. But one could argue that, okay, if you give them more money and more, you know, support, they're just going to keep on misusing it, that they're not going to change.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it should be in the form of handouts, but just like allowing trade to occur, because that's just a natural process. If there weren't the sanctions on them, trade would occur.
So no handouts, but more like conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Like we will trade with you under these certain conditions or under these specific circumstances.
What if they take away, because they, like you said, they're content with their situation. They're like, you know what, we don't want, we like what we have right now. We have imprisoned a whole women population. That's nice for us. You know, they can justify, like, keep their patriarchy. And they're like, you know what, I don't want extra, I don't know, couple more millions or whatever, right? Like, I like what I have, forget your extra money, and, you know, yeah, we're not going to let girls study. What would be needed? Like, what do you think should be done in that situation?
I don't know. I don't see what the incentive would be for them to do that. Like, why would they feel so strongly about not letting girls go to school when they can gain more power, more wealth, exponentially more power and wealth? Why would you do that? And I think the thing right now is they've come from like such a low level where these guys weren't in government. They're now living in like palaces. They're living like kind of kings, but kings in like the favela, let's say, for example. Like everywhere else is a slum. Like right now they're living life. However, if you just show them that next level, if you give them a little taste of the other luxuries of life, it's hard for humans to go back then. I think it's easy to go from here to here, from like level 10 to level 9, and then be content even if level 9 is horrible. But if you get a taste of level 4, you're going to be fiending to stay at that level 4. And if someone offers you like, okay, you can stay there for a prolonged period of time, however, you just have to accept these specific conditions.
But like I said, if they don't want the more, right? Let's say they're like, we are very content. You know, we want a ideology over money, over extra money. Then do the governments take away from them? Like, do they put on further sanction on them? Or like, what do we do in that situation?
I don't know. I don't know what would be gained from further sanctions. I think it'd just be the normal people of Afghanistan that would suffer.
It's very tricky, man. It's not a black and white at all, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation at all, but I don't know. There's a lot of people suffering in the country. Like, as we spoke about in the podcast, it's not even just the women and girls. The whole country is suffering because of the actions of the people who are in charge. So something really needs to be done.
So it's like fundamentally what we need from them is a mindset change, right? It's all about mindset change.
Do you think, though, that they really are that firmly rooted in the ideology? Because like your father said, the Muslim World League denounced their actions. If they really were that strong believers in Islam and the main scholars are telling you that what you're doing is wrong, surely they'd have a little bit in their mind like, oh, okay, maybe I should reevaluate. I think it's more so just a personal thing, almost like a vendetta, a stubbornness.
Yeah, which is even more dangerous, right? Because imagine the rest of the Muslim world telling you that you're wrong, but these guys are so strong in their beliefs that, you know, they have misconstrued the Quran, they have misconstrued so many. Probably most of them haven't even read literature, and then, like, you know, it's like they want to take revenge from America by oppressing their people. Yeah, like, it makes no sense. It makes like no sense. So like
that's what I mean, though.
It's like, can you even reason with them? Because if that is so unreasonable, right, and they're so set in their ways, can you like then clearly these things they said that, oh, we're gonna let women go to schools and they can get the education, but they lied. They said after 6 months, initially 3 months, 6 months, and they're like, no, like we worked hard for 20 years. We don't want to we don't want to let that go to waste. So we got to take them for their word that they don't want to change. You know, we can't assume.
I don't know, because I think the way to win in these situations is always diplomacy. We've seen from America bombing people and destroying countries is just not the way to go. They did it 20 years in Afghanistan. The same people are now still in charge 20 years later. They're doing it in Palestine, they're doing it in Yemen. That doesn't kill an ideology. If anything, it makes it stronger. I think diplomacy is the way to go. You have to come to the table thinking, oh, these people can negotiate, they can change. I think if we go in the mindset of, no, they're stuck in their ways, then what do we even get from that? Do you get what I mean?
But I'm saying, like, they are, let's say, like in the case, let's say you go the diplomatic route. You're like, you know what, if you let women study and get their future, and we will do trade with you, right? I'm saying in the worst case scenario, they say no to that. They're like, we are happy with what we have. Then if you were to remove things from them, right? Let's say you were to put on further sanction because you don't want these guys to be oppressing their people for decades, right? It's like, then how do you, I don't know. I think in ideal case, like you said, diplomacy is the answer. But if diplomatic relationship doesn't work with them, right, which is so far has been what it's looking like, then I'm always against violence. I don't think violence, we should ever be, like you said, it doesn't work, right? I think we will have to think of completely different ways to resolve this. And I just don't know what they are. I don't know if it's just like, if anyone has an answer on this stuff, I would love to hear an answer.
Yeah, I don't know what other answer there is. For all of human history, it's always been diplomacy or war.
Or war. What's the in between, man? Like,
I don't know if there is. I don't know. I think people have to come to the table with them. I really don't see any other option than trying to give them some sort of incentive. There must be something that they want in exchange. There's no, why? It doesn't make sense. Why would they feel so strongly about this ban? There must be something they want in exchange, and that's what needs to be figured out. And if it's feasible, if it's reasonable, then maybe they should be provided with that in return for just people being able to pursue an education or even pursue a good life. Like 80% of the country is starving or something. I don't know what the statistic was. I might have got that completely wrong. But the situation is really bad and something needs to be done. I don't know what it is, but we can't go on with what's happening right now. It's like neighboring our country, Pakistan, they're Pashtun, a lot of them like us. Like, I don't know, man. It's such a sad situation to see what's happening there. But I think also there might be a case of they want to be seen as a sovereign country. Maybe that's where the stubbornness is coming from. Like, they want to be almost respected and being like, no, we want to make our own decisions. We don't want to be forced into anything.
Yeah, it's very tough. Because what they're doing is also un-Afghanic in many ways. So a lot of Afghans are not happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't see
how
if the whole country is suffering, how can they really?
So either they get overthrown by their own people, or there even factions within the Taliban that some of them are telling the Emir that we should give girls education. Like,
that's the case in everything.
Yeah, there are people like that. And I think maybe, the Muslim world could stop. If they really tried, they could dismantle this ideology, in my opinion. If they came with like the real intention, I think there are solutions to it. But because the Muslim world has got so many, every country's got, like, you look at Iran, right? They're in their own conflict with with America and Israel, and you look at all of these other countries like Pakistan, they got their own issues and their own problems. It's like they're like, no one's can't be really asked to go and do anything there. But I think it's for the greater benefit that if there's a peaceful Afghanistan, I think, like my dad said, like if these countries don't do anything about it, if Pakistan doesn't do anything about it, if Saudi doesn't do anything about it, the Taliban ideology will spread. It's bound to spread. Do you get what I'm saying? And I think it serves a lot of country that Afghanistan remains unstable for them. Like, for example, for America, because China can't do trade and they can't spread, like some country being in disasters is advantageous for their enemies, like, so the Muslim world enemies, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, yeah. So basically, what you're saying is, if one country is in economic collapse, it serves country B really well because country C has an interest in the first country.
Exactly. And they can get, like, for example, if America
And
or any
like,
other country,
for example, China and America don't want to like outwardly be fighting each other, so they do it through these other subliminal tactics.
exactly, or like if they want to get something for cheaper, get it through these black markets, right, with these unauthorized governments, that can just basically, they can give lithiums for pennies that they have in their lands. They can give all the opiates or opium that they have had, and basically the country gets exported, and the people gain nothing. The few individuals in that the tyrants of those countries basically monopolize the wealth. So it's a lot of people gain from these situations. So there are countries that would definitely want Afghanistan in despair. They're like, why should we go and fix it when we're getting things for cheaper? Why should we pay more money for the opiates we might be getting or the lithium we might be getting? Why should we do that? In the black market trade, they do.
Yeah, and I also think there's an element of people feel as they don't feel responsible for every issue in the world, because like realistically you can't be. Like we spoke about it on the podcast with your dad as well. There's everything that's going on in Sudan. There's everything that's going on in Palestine, in Yemen. To what extent can we really go to every issue and be like, oh yeah, fix that, fix that, fix that? Every single one of these issues requires a lot of time and attention, but like, who's going to give it? That's why the people who have a vested interest in each thing really need to be the ones that are vocal about it, I think. Like, for example, if there's Afghan people or Pashtun people, they do need to really be at the forefront of this issue, I think.
Yeah, and I think that gets us back to Zia podcast, the podcast with Ziauddin, that we need to be, as Pashtuns, as ethnically being Afghani, we need to be, as men, we need to be at the forefront and condemn what's happening there, and lead the way, because if we don't speak about it, then who will?
Yeah, and I think more than condemnation, like, people need to try and figure out a solution.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing with this case is, I would say, from what I've seen, it is unanimously condemned by the whole world, especially where we live. Like, it might be in the back of everyone's heads right now. They might not care, but if you ask someone, everyone will say, oh yeah, that's bad. Like,
yeah,
it's not a good thing. The Taliban obviously is recognized as a terrorist organization, widely condemned all over the world. Whereas there's other issues in the world where horrible things going on and it's not even being condemned.
Yeah.
And the opposite case is actually being supported. But let me just get back on track. I think we need, more than condemnation, people need to work towards a solution.
100%, yeah.
Because people have condemned it so much, more than enough. But to a certain point, you need to shift that towards, okay, what can we do to fix it?
Yeah, 100%. For I mean, condemnation also helps, but that's one of the aspects you need to keep, but you need to add.
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
just condemn. Whether it's like, it can be a small part, whether it's a refugee in your area that's from Afghanistan or any other country, helping them out, right? Like, just helping them build a future here, because eventually their kids, or they might go back and one day be the person that changes their country. And we have to start on smaller case, on a small level, because sometimes we get we just get caught up in such of the big problems that basically we forget about the little things that matter, and that's gonna get us to these big solutions that we want to eventually have.
Yeah, and writing to like your MPs and stuff. I saw the other day, I think it was like 25,000 Afghanis who helped the British government and now they're immigrating to the UK or have immigrated to the UK are being shipped to Rwanda.
That's crazy, man.
Like, there's a certain level of responsibility that you have to take. I don't know. That's, to me, that is so immoral and so wrong on so many levels. And I think it is to anyone who reads that. I don't even think I have to explain why that's wrong. Because you can't take someone who's helped you, exploit them for their help, and then when they need your help, you just ship them off like they're someone else's problem. But just rounding that up, that was a really insightful podcast. Like, we learned a lot. And I think it's important for everyone to be aware of the issues that are going on in the world, especially everyone nowadays is so vocal about feminism in the West. And there are so many talking points about like seemingly trivial issues when there's a part of the world where girls can't even go to school, and there's not being as much light shed on that. I think people should really watch and listen to conversations like this to get a sense of gratitude as well, but most importantly, be aware of what's going on in the world and see if you can make any change towards it.
That's perfectly said.
Okay, so the last podcast we did this month was with James. What a guy.
What a guy. I mean, those stories were insane, man.
Yeah. Started off strong as well, straight in with the shark story.
The shark stories, was it the black mamba snakes?
Yeah. That, to me, that was such an interesting podcast. The thing I found the most interesting out of all of that was when he spoke about witnessing the elephant funeral. Oh my days, that has shifted my perspective on things so much, because I won't go into detail. You can watch the podcast to see exactly what happened, but they're like humans.
Yeah.
There was like an entire burial process, almost an entire funeral process. To me, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I almost teared up, you know. Like, my eyes got water. I'm like, damn, like, that is so beautiful.
Yeah. I think that is so important to listen to just get an understanding of we're not that different and we're not that special really compared to these animals.
100%, man. And the animals we learnt about and what he learned from those animals, the lessons, it's also life-changing. Some of them are life-changing lessons. The philosophy of nature, like adopting that and how he ingrained himself into that. Man, it's like he's such a unique person. Like, we need to hang out with more people like him. Do you get what I'm saying? It's because we like just so in our comforts and in our thingy, like in this just the human civilization, which is like we're so used to it. It's so like it's so far from reality. Whereas that guy, he's him, as we say. He's actually him. Yeah. Where he's just, you know, he's experienced life, the mystery of life on a different level.
Yeah, exactly. So he's from Botswana, and he's done volunteering and work in conservationism and things like that, where he's gone out hunting poachers and like tracking down animals. He's been face to face with sharks, lions, like incredible stories in that podcast, and incredible insight into those stories as well. Just explaining what those moments felt like, how it changed him as a person, and also like telling us a bit about the indigenous tribes in Botswana. Like there's one tribe which speaks not even primarily, only in clicks.
Only in clicks, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And how they know the nature. He was like, oh, like he said, like there will be these two animals in 2 hours that they're gonna see.
Yeah, so they were driving past in an SUV, and just randomly he says he must have seen some footprints in the sand or something. He said in 2 hours we will see this animal, and apparently 2 hours exactly on the dot in the exact place he said that animal was there. And they were traveling in the car at like a really fast speed, so you've seen the prints really quick, and then somehow from far away, from inside the car, he's he's figured that out.
That's crazy. Do you think some of these humans have like just different vision? Like they see different, they smell different. Like the way they smell, I mean, not like they smell the smell of them. Like
yeah.
their sense of smell, their sense of touch, everything is just on a different.
I think, you know how there's something in life you can't really teach or explain to someone without them being like in there and doing it themselves. Almost like a particular culture, for example. If you haven't grown up with Pashto and the humor and all of that stuff, it's extremely difficult to understand. I can teach someone the language, but I can't really teach them the context of the language. Like if you call someone a botal, if you just explain that in English, they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Just say
yeah, they won't get it.
What are you talking about? Even if you explain it. And I think in things like this as well, maybe there's something because they've grown up in this environment and they've relied on these kind of things for their survival. It's just instinctive that they see these markers and they're like, yeah, that's is what it is. And then worst part is they speak in clicks, so they can't even tell you. But no, do you think speaking in clicks, do you think because the language is not as developed, their senses are more developed?
Our European...
I was thinking like that as well. Maybe
the
they
arrogance, the thing you like, we got the English language, we're the most complex. But are we really though?
Yeah, no, I was thinking that as well, but surely the likelihood is if you're simply speaking in clicks, how developed can it really be? Like we can say, for example, English as a language I think is more developed than Pashto. We don't even have words for certain things, like new things that come out. We just call them English words. We don't even like bother to create new words. In English there's new words every year. I don't know when there was new word in Pashto, was probably like 1,000 years ago last time.
But do you think every language, like, although, like, yes, overall, when you look at, like, literature, everything is in English, right? A lot of wisdom is in English. But do you think there's certain languages, like, for example, clicks, where they have some depth of knowledge that if it wasn't in clicks, that would be just completely lost, like how there is in Pashto. Like, for example, Pashto poetry in ghazals, right? That you can't emulate.
Do you mean if you translated it?
Even if not like translated it, but yeah, if you translated it, yeah. I mean, there's always lost in translation, but do you think like if they didn't speak in clicks, they would be not as equipped to the nature or the environment they're living in? Like there's some deep wisdom, there's some deep message.
In the clicks.
Yeah, that can only be understood in clicks. Does that make sense?
Is
that wisdom is just secluded?
I see what you mean, but I don't know, but I don't see why that would be the case, why you wouldn't be able to portray that in a different language. I feel like I think it's maybe likely that if you grew up in that situation, but you spoke not in clicks, you spoke like something similar to Portuguese, for example, you'd still be able to do the same thing. I don't know if the clicks carry.
No, but you think there's some like hidden meaning in every language? Like there's certain emotions or certain like wisdom that you can only unlock through adopting certain languages. That they're just like, I'm getting very bro science on it.
Maybe it's a interesting concept, but I think it's less so about what sounds make up the language and more so about like environmental things, like just growing up in that situation. I don't know if the language...
But the language is inspired, those sounds have come from that environment you've grown up in and the things that did you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe. But also the language is like, that takes you into another conversation of where does language even come from? Like how do we even communicate with each other? Why do you even understand that these sounds that I'm making mean something?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy, isn't it? Or why? Like maybe they're 2 clicks. Maybe the 2 clicks they make, they explain such a complex idea that we will need to write an essay on.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. What if they're just so efficient with their communication that they just do, and they've like told you the meaning of life?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what if like there's certain wisdom or certain things that are just so like confined into those sounds that are just like, it's like almost sacred. Yeah, it's,
No, but I'd still think if you could speak language, you maybe would have to write a whole essay on it. But you could, if you were in that situation, if you grew up in that environment, you'd still be able to portray the same message through English.
I'm sure. But I'm just, it's nice thought experiment.
Yeah, no, it was a really good, it was really interesting conversation with James.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can have him on again soon, because there was a whole other side to his story that we didn't even hear about. We also spoke about the boxing with him, because he did fight night like I did, and he won his fight. So I was just talking about what that was like, the preparation for that, because this guy runs 80K
Bro,
or
this
something.
he's him. Like I've said it. Like if you guys don't check out this episode, you guys are being donuts. I can't lie. Like, it's this guy is an extraordinary person. You don't meet people. He's like that 0.0001% who in their life has ran those kilometers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At our age, and then the things that he has at our age, he's younger than us, I think.
I don't think he's younger than me. He's probably younger than you.
Yeah, I'm 24.
Yeah, I think probably, maybe.
23, 24, yeah. But
he's
it's crazy. But even if he's 27, he's crazy. His life story.
Yeah, I don't think he's 27. I think he said he's in third year and he did a gap year. So he's probably 22, 23.
Yeah, probably around my age. But that's, bro, guy's seen so much. Yeah, and done so much too.
Yeah, so definitely watch that podcast.
Yeah.
There's really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it for the month.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon for next month of podcasting.
Yeah, man.
By see you soon, I mean we've already recorded the next 2 podcasts, but let's not tell them.
Man, we are underrated, man. Alright, guys, come on, give us the ratings, give us the follows, give us the subscribes. Find us, help us, support us, and we will bring you incredible conversations. But don't miss them, because one of them could change your life, and they will, genuinely. Some of these people I'm having on my podcast have changed my life. So,
it is true.
What's to say that it won't change yours? So, stay tuned. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And once again, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.